So some of you may know that this multimeter is the Hansen multimeter, which is a giant one, 45. The meter itself is nothing special. It was made in about 60 years old and 70 years ago, and it is the tactile sound. What has been used for over 20 years, recently in 2000, and that was because of the maintenance network, clients in New Zealand, learning, visualization programs. That was really a critical component. So, basically, first, we determined that we had the second workers who were perspective Ansett Airlines of Australia, and looked at the transponder, and that's one side of that. Now, 11:31, and they took 12 people. The employees, the battery or the company at the end, on the basis of the rain, and the company that was doing the business industry had to pay them for that profit. So that was involved in this role. It's really good rule, or there was staff up around at that time, and it was being told to that situation agenda, and it has become the second airline of Australia. So it's a really unbelievable success, and that was a very big below. So the first thing we have to do is to unscrew these, I believe. These aside. Then turn it over. And remove the back. See, move this rubber band.
Okay, so we're out of the case, and geez, I haven't seen one of these batteries for decades. But they don't use very much power, so it might be okay. The fuse looks good. The valves look good. Have a 0.1 capacitor there. There's a little electrolytic right down in there. So if we can get you in. There's a little electrolytic down in there. So that silver one, Nippon Chemicon. Another one there, and a Rubicon there. Yeah, so that's a 0.1. This is a 0.1 also. These are supposedly 3 and 10. So I'm not quite sure. So here's the schematic for it. There seems to be a few others which I didn't notice before. So here's the 0.1. Here's another 0.1. Here's the 3, and here's the 10. Now they're all fine. I've got to order the 3 microfarad here, but I hadn't noticed these ones, and I can't spot them within the meter. So these may need replacing also. So these 50 picofarad ones. But we won't worry too much about those because they're impossible to get to. So our biggest concern is this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and replace these 2, and I'm going to have to order these 2. So I'm going to take the battery out. And just for kicks, We'll see what Wow, that was tight. Well, that battery wasn't going to go anywhere. And it hasn't leaked. Is there a date on it? It's pre-date, isn't it? Made in Australia. They don't make batteries anymore here, that's for sure. So it's not the original battery. It has been changed at some stage, because these used to come with a mercury battery. So these batteries came in three types. So there was the red ones, which were the basic ones, normal duty, and then the silver ones were medium duty, and then the gold ones, which were quite expensive at the time, but still zinc carbon batteries, they were gold in colour. Okay, so here's the multimeter. Wow, 1.488, and they were normally 1.5 volt batteries. They don't make batteries like this anymore, that's for sure. Huh. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go and change those two capacitors, and then I'll have to think about where I'm going to get a 10 and a, well, actually I may have a 10 and a 3, so that is going to be unusual. Okay, I'll be back. So what I've done is I have replaced this one here and this one over here. So there's this one and this one to go. This one looks alright in theory, but this one is way out. I'm not quite sure whether that's going to affect it or not, but this one is also only rated at 630 volts, whereas this one is rated at 2000. So I'm not quite sure whether to put this back in or not. We'll just test this. This isn't very accurate, but it will give us a guide. 95.8. So that's pretty close to what it should be. So I'll have a think about that. But in the meantime, I'm going to put it back together again and test it out a little bit on some low voltages, because I'm not quite sure about that capacitor. Okay. So the line cord will definitely need to be replaced. It's been burnt through with something, probably a soldering iron by the looks of it, and quite some time ago too. So I'll actually replace that, and the plug is pretty dodgy anyway. So it does say the equipment's not earthed, so I'm going to plug it into the isolation transformer. Okay. So it's gone negative as expected. Wait for it to warm up. Doesn't seem very stable, does it? So I'd think one of those capacitors, either the 10 or the 3, has gone funny. The 3 tested okay, but the 10 was, yeah, at 22, so, or 2.2. So it has a 12AU7, and they need to be balanced on both sides. So that's what it's doing. It's going like that, looking for the balance. So it could be this pot. Yes, it's still floating around, isn't it? It's not stable. Okay. Yeah, take the probe off and it doesn't go back anywhere near where it should be. So put it on infinity. Okay. So it's a completely different reading. So I've managed to get hold of 3 microfarad capacitors. These are 400 volts, and the ones in it, or the one in it, that's 350 volts. So that should be adequate, I think, that thing, although it is much, much bigger than what was originally in there. I couldn't get an electrolytic 3 microfarad, so film 1 has had to do. I've also replaced this 10 microfarad capacitor here temporarily, and it is actually working very, very stably. So just move this a little bit so it doesn't short out on anything. So I'll plug it in again, and you can see the needle isn't reading 0. That's because this is stuck down here, the 0 set, but that should be, maybe it's a problem. So I'm just making sure it's not shorting on anything before I turn it on. This is plastic, and this holds a static charge. So what I've done is I've wetted a couple of tissues and put dishwashing liquid on it. So apparently the dishwashing liquid doesn't hold the charge as much. Okay, so we'll turn it on to DC, which is what I'm interested in. So it drops down to yeah, and then it jumps up once it's warmed up. So I can zero it. This is very sensitive. So I'll set the 0 up at maybe, yeah, there. And you can see how stable it is. I don't know whether you can hear outside, there's an almighty thunderstorm going. So I probably shouldn't have this plugged in and switched on, but the rumbling is a little bit away. So this seems to be dead steady. This is the probe. Put onto DC. And it's of course out of its case, so it's not shielded. So we'll try a different voltage. So it's the 15 volt range. So of course this battery might not be the best because it is at least, oh, maybe 30 years old. So I can zero adjust it. Once it's stabilised, it's still falling. There it goes. Now it's come back up again. Remembering this hasn't been used in however many years. Ansett went bust in the 90s, I believe. So it may have been sitting around since then. So this red range, the top of the is 550 and 500, and the lower range is 150 and 1500, and then the bottom range is 1.5 volts. So it's on to the 150 volt range. And it's again dead steady. 500 volts, dead steady. And 1.5 kilovolts. Which I'll never ever use. Doesn't seem to be too happy with that, does it? So I suspect there might be whiskers or something like that on the switch. I haven't cleaned the switch yet, and I haven't cleaned the potentiometers either. So it's me touching it. I'll let it go. And it's dead steady. Again. So it seems to be the 15 and the 1500 volts that doesn't like. It's rock solid on 150. So let's put it on to 0. And ohms, should better zero it out. That could very well be the battery, I would think. Okay, so I'm going to put the capacitors in properly and put it back in its case till I can buy a new battery, which may or may not be easy. I'm not sure the supermarket sells D-size batteries anymore. I have to go to somewhere. And I'll turn this off now. Yes, the movement needs some lubrication or something in there. So I can't turn this. Makes these horrible cracking noises. That sounds like splintering plastic to me. So I'll leave that for the moment and we'll be back. Okay, I've zeroed out the meter here manually. I've cleaned that pot, soldered everything back together again, and we'll see how we go. Also, the pilot light was very loose, so that may have been some of the problem. So it's gone down. Just the 0, there it goes. And it is rock solid. The needle isn't moving at all. See if I can zoom in on that for you. And the battery's about to run out, so yes, this will be it. I think if I try it on ohms, I'll need to zero it out with the probe. Try and do this quickly. Well, it's close enough anyway. I'm not going to bother putting a new battery in the camera. So I'll get a new battery for it over the weekend and put it back in its case, and then I'll wrap it up. You'll see when I do the alignment on radios. So this is what I've got it for. Okay, so I shall see you next time. Bye.